If you tried to kill Bitcoin for 10, 15 years, it's bad for the environment. It's governments are going to stop it. China is going to stop it. US is going to stop it. We're going to regulate it out of existence. And you couldn't kill it. It kept on going. It kept on going. It kept on going. More and more people moved to it. More and more people running nodes and such. What would you do? I know what I would do. I would try to co-opt it. I would try to say, Bitcoin's good for us. We are going to control the rails and regulate it so that it's part of our financial system. And you'd try to co-opt it. Then a lot of people would centralize based on that, and they wouldn't hold Bitcoin in self-custody. They would hold a derivative instrument in somebody else's custody.
For over a decade, powerful interests have tried to kill Bitcoin. First, they called it a joke. Then, they attacked its environmental impact. After that, they said governments like China or the US would shut it down. And yet, it didn't die. It grew. Every attempt to suppress it only made it more resilient. More people joined the network, more nodes came online, and Bitcoin kept producing block after block like clockwork. Jeff Booth frames this evolution in sharp terms. If brute force fails, the next best move is to capture it quietly. That's how legacy systems survive. You rebrand Bitcoin as safe once it's wrapped in regulation and custodial services. ETFs and financial products start replacing self-custody, offering exposure without true ownership. It feels convenient until you realize you don't actually control your money anymore. That's not Bitcoin. That's the old system wearing new clothes. The threat isn't outright bans anymore. It's the soft comfort of centralization. Bitcoin's power lies in its decentralization, in self-custody, and in the individual opting out of legacy rails. If we trade that away for ease, we've missed the point entirely. The danger today isn't in losing Bitcoin, it's in thinking we own it, when all we're holding is a receipt. Stay tuned as we bring you more clips from Jeff Booth's explosive interview. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications for additional in-depth content. Thanks for joining us again. Enjoy the video.
Name a problem that you could solve inside a system that had to manipulate money faster and faster and faster. Name the thing that you care about most. Because how does, when you say corporate greed, you yourself are choosing the value. So if you're choosing the value and you're choosing these corporations over and over, and they're competing and razor sharp, small margins to try to create value, then wouldn't they have to remove their labor as fast as possible with AI, or you wouldn't choose their value? How could it be them when it's you? And so if you're inside that system, yelling at that system all that time, well choosing that system, isn't it you and not somebody else? And by the way, this is how layered this is so hard to see, because we so want to believe what you just described is I'm in social media all day, inside the system trying to divide me from somebody else, believing it's not somebody, it's somebody else. And I don't want to face that it's me, right? The agency at the bottom of that. Because, and all of the things inside what you're talking about would have to separate you from others faster.
Yeah.
And you would want to believe that. You would want to believe, because it couldn't be you. But if you've never lived in a free market, and Bitcoin is the only free market that's ever existed, and you spend all of your time in the other market, how couldn't it be you? You already know, because you're starting to participate in Bitcoin and actually purchasing in Bitcoin. And what do you see? You see tallow soap. You see grass-fed beef. You see these artisan markets emerging, higher quality, lower cost, and circular economies that are emerging all over the place. And that's what I'm watching too. And so I understand why people couldn't see it if they're not in it. But when you're in it every day, you're seeing exactly what you just described. You're seeing, and that has to happen. Not might happen. Why would it have to happen? Because we're the choice. We choose more value all the time. And entrepreneurs and the free market rewards an entrepreneur when they give us more value. I agree with, but if we, again, not a global free market, but a local free market. So what drove the US to be one of the wealthiest nations ever? It was the free market. It was the Constitution about freedom that allowed people to move from all over the world to a place where their ideas mattered, right? And their ideas culminated in faster growth and more economic freedom and more growth that changed kind of the course of history and made the U.S. a new superpower. But as that was happening, and you had a free banking system, and what would it look like? Let's just do a toy example. What would it look like if that system was based on gold, and a bank could reserve the gold, and you didn't want your gold all the time, and a bank could reserve that gold 50% of the time, right? And pay you a little money. In the free market, then another bank would do it 30% and pay you more. Mm-hmm. And then 10% and then 5%. Each one would pay you more. And what would you do? You would go to the one that paid you the most. You would absolve the risk, and they were fractionalizing your gold. You would take the short-term profit, and for a while it would work because you chose. And then when it failed, because everybody wanted their gold back at the same time, what would you do? You would blame the bank. And where did the greed lie? The greed laid in you trying to get a higher interest rate and absolving yourself of your risk in the free market. And so what would happen? As a government, you would exploit that, or as a central banking cartel, you would exploit that. You would actually create that, and you would say, we're going to solve this problem for those greedy people. And you would centralize that into a Federal Reserve that protected those people from themselves. You regulate it. And now you have an extraction mechanism for all of humanity. So why people are going into all these altcoins and nonsense and stable coins and is people are going to do the same thing right now. They're going to centralize. All of the things that people are worried about are from the centralizing system. It's a super simple question that cuts through. Name a problem that you could solve by printing more money. There being none, that can't solve any of your problems. Mm-hmm. Are you inside a system? Now ask the next question. How much time are you giving to that system? And I mean, seriously ask that question. Mark it down every time you're on social media inside that system. Every time you're mad and you're spending time in that system, mark it down and say, I need to remove some of my time from this system that cannot solve one of my problems and move it to a different system. And be really honest with how much time you're giving to that system. And you'll find there is no they, it's only we. And while you still make those choices and think there's a they, there will always be a they. There will always be somebody to capitalize on your aggravation and how mad you are and about them. And it's you.
Most people spend their lives inside a system they don't fully understand, blaming others while unknowingly reinforcing it with every choice they make. This powerful reflection flips the script, suggesting the real issue isn't corporate greed or bad policy, but our own participation. A truly free market, like Bitcoin offers, challenges this pattern by rewarding actual value, not shortcuts or manipulation. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you opt in, there's no going back. Bitcoin does something remarkable that gold and fiat never could. It forces power to decentralize, not because it's idealistic, but because the protocol demands it. You can't fund a project, pay a team, or create real-world impact without spending or sharing your Bitcoin. That simple act redistributes wealth more efficiently than any central plan ever could. As the legacy system clings to control and optics, Bitcoin just keeps doing what it was designed to do: reward those who create, contribute, and choose freedom over force. Let's watch more clips from the interview.
That other system has to distribute, because if you had a whole bunch of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin now this is Bitcoin as a monetary, it's money too, right? It's not just an asset under control of a banking cartel, right? If it was only an asset, you would have the robber barons faster, and then it would fail. It would all centralize. If it's a protocol being money as well, then it constantly decentralizes. Why does it decentralize? If you had more Bitcoin and everybody was spending in Bitcoin, you would have to create more value or distribute your Bitcoin. Let's imagine you wanted to create a standing army to what would you be doing with your Bitcoin? You would just be distributing it to your standing army. And so it has to constantly decentralize. Even what you're saying today, large holders are actively selling right now, distributing their Bitcoin to new. And I don't begrudge them. If you held on for 10 years and you now have billions of dollars of pieces of paper on Bitcoin, and you think now is time to sell some, great. But it will constantly distribute. It has to, because that's what the free market does. One thing about gold is it centralizes, because you can't transport it easily. And so because it centralizes, you could, when you say robber barons, you could invade another nation, steal their gold and raw materials, and they would be slaves to your nation. So you were still living in a zero-sum game. Yeah. It just didn't look like you were living in a zero-sum game, because when you're measuring your history, you're looking through the lens of the winners. Mm. But if your history was instead Democratic Republic of Congo or somewhere else, and where you were looking through the loser's lens, it wouldn't look like that. It would look like exploitation. Mm. So that zero-sum game, somebody had to lose for somebody to win. Now think about what the free market is. And you could go back to Adam Smith's work, or anyone's. Free market is an infinite game. The only way you can get paid more is to provide somebody else value. They win, you win, the world wins. And so if you added more people into a free market, not exploit it, you added them more into a free market and unlocked more minds into a free market, what would you expect to see? You would expect to see more value faster for everybody. And the only amount they would win, the entrepreneur, the creative, is how much value they provided to somebody else. I want to leave this on a hopeful note too, because these choices all manifest into this, and it would look this chaotic as both were happening. And what I hear in most of conversations are people talking about what Bitcoin is from the other system. Mm-hmm. But just ask yourself a question: what would it look like if 99.9% of people were stuck in said system, and you weren't? And you were providing value, and you started providing value? It would look a lot like what you've created, Natalie. Right? I remember when you moved your time, and to watch you now, take all of your friends in newsrooms back at that time, and where are they versus where are you, and why did that happen? Because you're moving your time into a system that rewards value for others, and as you provide value, more of the 99% of people move along with you. It's exactly what you'd expect is happen. We're just extraordinarily early in that process. But as an entrepreneur, I think, where would I want to be? Right? And so I'm not mad at the way the system looks today at all. It wouldn't give us this opportunity to create so much value for other people if it didn't look like it was strangling the value out of people from that system. If I go back and I think about what the cypherpunks were talking about, were talking about privacy, and money and privacy, and removing money from government, because in a digital age, you would be living in a panopticon, a complete surveillance, if you didn't have this. And that was if you look at the first mailing list and how few people were on that mailing list, and all of the failures before Bitcoin that were instrumental in creating Bitcoin, it would happen as exactly at the time you would expect it to need to come in the free market, as our ideas competed to provide value to others to be able. And that's exactly what's happening right now in the protocol and the other layers, adding privacy on top of Bitcoin. It's exactly what's happening right now. Most people don't know what's happening because they're still in the other side. Is still in the fiat system, measuring Bitcoin from that system. If you tried to kill Bitcoin for 10, 15 years, it's bad for the environment. It's governments are going to stop it. China is going to stop it. US is going to stop it. We're going to regulate it out of existence. And you couldn't kill it. It kept on going. It kept on going. It kept on going. More and more people moved to it. More and more people running nodes and such. What would you do? I know what I would do. I would try to co-opt it. I would try to say, Bitcoin's good for us. We are going to control the rails and regulate it so that it's part of our financial system. And you'd try to co-opt it. Then a lot of people would centralize based on that, and they wouldn't hold Bitcoin in self-custody. They would hold a derivative instrument in somebody else's custody. And by doing so, they would do the same thing as we talked about before. They would, and then you would give interest rate on that, and more people would do it. And then they would, then when it all went to pear-shaped, you would step in and try to sweep it all up and make it okay. But that won't work with Bitcoin. Bitcoin, it's a protocol, and when somebody tries to, or a group of people try to do that, there will be a fork in Bitcoin, and that fork will probably die. So you can expect all of these things. So all of the things that are happening today is like, nothing is surprising, I would say.
Bitcoin's recent pullback to the $92,000 range, along with bearish ETF outflows and fading bullish momentum, isn't just another cooling off moment. It's part of a deeper structural pattern that Jeff Booth has long emphasized. Markets driven by fiat expectations look for linear growth, quick gains, and fear any pause. But Bitcoin isn't playing that game. It's shifting value creation away from central planners and toward those who can genuinely provide something useful. That redistribution process is messy, but necessary. Ethereum and XRP may be struggling with resistance levels and technical exhaustion, but that's only part of the story. Despite Ethereum's ETF inflows and XRP's steady demand, investor sentiment remains shaky, stuck in the old mindset of short-term positioning. Booth's insight flips the lens. When 99% of people still measure from the fiat system, volatility feels like failure. But from the vantage point of value creation, this is how decentralization spreads, through creative destruction and relentless adaptation. Booth reminds us that Bitcoin is not just a trade, it's a protocol forcing decentralization by design. The mixed ETF flows, RSI dips, and MACD divergences all echo the same tension. Legacy rules can't contain a monetary network that rewards those who build rather than hoard. Fear is loud when old systems lose grip, but the opportunity it leaves behind is where real builders thrive. Traders see red candles. Entrepreneurs, as Booth would argue, see the scaffolding of something new taking shape. As we wrap up, what would it take for you to walk away from centralized products entirely? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Share this video, hit the like button, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video.